I'm Alex, I'm from Cornersmith, and today I'm at Kitchen Warehouse and I'm going to teach you how to make one of my favourite jams. This one is a strawberry and rhubarb and rose jam. It's really beautiful, it's easy to make, simple ingredients, no nasties in there, and it's a really lovely thing to have in the fridge or the pantry. It's delicious on toast. You can also have it through a sponge cake, you could have it on waffles, on pancakes. It's one of those very versatile jam, and it also makes an excellent gift. So I've got rhubarb, I've taken the ends off the rhubarb, and then we're just chopping it into small pieces, probably 1 centimetre or 2. The only thing that you cannot eat is the rhubarb leaves. They are definitely poisonous. I'm a big believer in using all parts of a vegetable, but even I have to admit that's something that needs to go into the bin. So I'm chopping all of this up, and then we'll get rid of the leaves. And that's going to go into our jam pan or our preserving pan. So they go straight in there like that. Next we're going to add strawberries. Now the berries are lovely at the moment. Make sure you're making jam that's in season from good quality Australian produce. So that just pops in there with that as well. So we've got the rhubarb and the jam, the rhubarb and the strawberries in there together. Now when you're making jam, it's not just about fruit. It's really important that you figure out how to get that perfect set. A lot of people really panic when it comes to setting point. So what we're trying to do here is create fruit that has enough pectin in it. Now pectin is a naturally occurring substance that's in all fruits and vegetables, but it's to varying degrees. So citrus and green apples have very high pectin, whereas things like strawberry have incredibly low pectin. So your jam is never going to set easily by itself, and it will always be running. So don't panic if that's happened to you before. It's not your fault. The strawberries have no pectin in there. What we're going to do is introduce some natural pectin. So like I said, citrus is a really important pectin. So I've got the juice and the zest of 2 lemons here, and I'm just going to pop that in there as well. It is for flavour as well, so it takes a little bit of the sweetness out of the sugar, but mainly we're introducing lemon as a way to introduce pectin into low pectin fruits. If you wanted to, you could add a green apple in there as well. You could grate it or chop it very finely, and that's going to create some natural pectin too. I think the common problem that people have with jam making is that they put too much water in there, and then that makes it quite difficult to set. I know that strawberries and rhubarb have quite a high water content, so I'm just going to put about 1/2 cup to start off with of water, and then we're going to bring that up to the boil. It's really important when you're making jam to soften down your fruit before you add the sugar in. So whatever jam you're making, whatever fruit that you're using, you want to get that to be nice and soft and broken down before you add the sugar. If you add the sugar too early, what's going to happen is that the fruit is going to candy. So get it to the point where you're happy. It doesn't need to be completely smooth. It's still fine to have some chunks in there. I quite like a big chunk of strawberry spread on my toast in the morning, but get it to the consistency that you're happy with before you add the sugar in. So I'm going to turn that on, and we're going to let this just slowly cook. This is probably the longest part of jam making, is getting the fruit to the right consistency. So this is going to be a lovely red springtime jam, and you're going to be very happy with these results. So luckily we've got something that I prepared earlier, so we don't need to stand here and watch every single process. What I want you to see here is the difference. So what we've done is we've let the strawberries and the rhubarb really soften down. And then once you've gotten it to the consistency that you're happy with, you're going to add the sugar in. The kind of sugar you use is really up to you. Caster sugar or white sugar is great because it doesn't have a lot of colour and a lot of flavour. So the flavour, the beautiful flavour of the fruit can shine through, and it won't change the colour of the jam either. So with the sugar, it's important to use the right level of sugar as a way to preserve the fruit. So if you've made 1 litre of fruit pulp, you're going to need 60% sugar. So for a litre of fruit pulp, which we could measure after this is softened down, you're going to need 600 grams of sugar. The reason why I love the Kilner preserving pans is that they've already got a measurement in there. So once this is softened down, I'd be able to look at this and go, great, I made a litre of fruit pulp, so I can quickly do the maths and realise that I just need the 600 grams of sugar. 60% sugar is what stops the growth of bacteria. All right, so once you add the sugar, dissolve it in, let it get really soft. Make sure there's none sticking to the bottom, and then you're going to turn the heat up. Once you turn the heat up, you really want not a vigorous boil, but a good boil. Because what's happening during that process is the sugar, the pectin, the heat, and the acid of the fruit all come together, and that's what makes that gel-like consistency. And that's what's going to make your jam set and be the most successful. So you're softening down your fruit, you measure out the amount of fruit pulp that you've got, then you add your sugar in, and then you're jamming it. And that's where you're boiling it. That stage should only take about 15 minutes to 20 minutes for a smallish sized batch like this. The reason I like to use the preserving pans for jam making is because of the shape of them. So please never make jam in a stock pot. It gets very, very dark. The liquid can't evaporate well, and your jam ends up tasting like sugar rather than fruit. So you can see how this pan is tapered like this. It allows it to sit over heat, have a really good even boil. It opens up like that, which allows for really good evaporation, and it makes your jam set well. I would have to say, once I got my Kilner preserving pan, my jam making game suddenly changed. It's also excellent for thickening chutneys too. So when you're ready, so we've let this one cook, it's got the sugar in there, it's probably been cooked for about 15 to 20 minutes, and I now can just look into a pot of jam and know if it's ready or not. So I just want to give you a few of my tips. You can see how it's glossy. You can see how the surface is very thick, and when I run this through the middle, you can see how for a minute, not even a minute, few seconds, you can see the bottom of the pan. They're all really good signs that your jam is ready. The other thing to do is to pop a little dish into the fridge or the freezer, pop a tablespoon of jam on top of it, and then run your finger through the middle. If the C's part and it stays away, then that's also a really good sign that your jam is cooked. If you're not sure, turn off your jam, have a big deep breath, and just let it sit for a minute. You could leave it to sit for half an hour if you wanted to. And what you'll notice on the top is a really good wrinkle. It's almost a bit like a skin, and that will form on the top, which is another really good sign that your jam is ready. Setting point is the hardest part of jam making, but once you start to see the signs, it's much easier as well. If you're going to do bigger batches of jam, obviously everything will take a lot longer, but because of the shape of this jam pan, you're not going to have any trouble. Once again, narrow and wide when it comes to a pan, rather than tall and shallow and wide rather than tall and narrow is the way to go. So once your jam is ready, you need to bottle it up. So I've got some very cute jam jars here. They've been sterilised, they've gone into the oven. You can also boil your jars as well, but you do need to make sure that they are completely dry before you add your jam in there. Now, to stop things getting messy and getting jam everywhere, and also to save yourself some burns, the funnels are really great. So these jam funnels are excellent. They go in there, they fit really nicely in. And then I'm going to ladle the jam in there. Oh, look at that lovely colour. It's really beautiful. So your jars are hot, your jam is hot, and that's going straight in. Give it a little tap. It's important, once again, just to make sure you're getting rid of any air bubbles. Don't let the jam come all the way up. I want there to be a little gap between the lid and where it is. If there's a couple of big air bubbles that get caught in the corners, just give it a little, get rid of them, which is great, easy. A little poke will do. Okay. That's jam smells so good, old-fashioned. All right. All right. And then we're going to pop the lid on top. So the lid goes on. Now, that jam can safely be stored in the pantry as is for a couple of months. If you are looking to make your jam last longer, if you've done a big batch of it, I would really recommend heat processing it, which is where you're water bathing it. And if you did that for 10 to 15 minutes, that would make your jam shelf stable and be able to be stored in the pantry for up to 2 years or more. Once you open your jam, it gets stored in the fridge. I would say you can store it in the fridge for 3 months, 6 months to a year. You're probably going to eat it before anything goes wrong. And enjoy it as much as you want. There is nothing in here but fruit and sugar and a little water. Beautiful. There we go. Now, jam making is an excellent thing to do for a gift. I just wanted to show you how cute these little jars are. If you wanted to do a big batch of them and give them out to your neighbours and your friends, it's like you're giving them a little pot of gold, so they'll be so happy with it. Making jam is a really easy preserving method. It's something very simple. I really don't think anyone needs to buy jam ever again. You just need to make yourself a batch, fill up your pantry. Make sure you experiment with other seasonal fruits as well. Once you know how to make one jam, you really know how to make all jams. It's just the craft that you need to follow. The recipe will be up on the Kitchen Warehouse website, and I hope that helped with your jam making adventures. Thanks so much.